Sup, my name is Mike Yakovlev. I've been a cover artist for about 10 years, and today I'm going to show you how I made this cover for Bishu. So the best way for me to show you how I made this cover is to just jump straight into Blender, which is like primarily where I did all the work. Essentially, if you look at it from the camera view, the cover is done. But the real secret is in kind of how I assembled the image. So it looks like this 2D flat anime style, and in a lot of parts it is, but let me just show you what it looks like when I hop out of the camera view. So if I press 0 and hop out of the camera view, you can see the kind of setup of everything. It's kind of like a traditional, like a cartoon style where they have like layers of things and on cells and whatever, and they're like layered on top of each other. But essentially the most 3D part is the grass, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description to show you the tutorial that I watched to make the grass. I made it through the tutorial, and then I just bought the asset from the artist that provided, got their permission to use it, and everything like that, all good. Yeah, this is the most 3D part, and I'm not the best at explaining how to make this grass, so that's why I really recommend just watching that video. But everything else, like once you kind of have the grass, and it'll teach you how to scatter the little like flowers and everything like that. Once I had that, it was really just about layering other assets. Like there's this image of like a tree branch, of some bushes, and I just kind of like laid them out and repeated them over and over among the grass, so that there's like this depth. When we go back into the view, you can see I can grab some of these clouds. Everything like the bushes, the clouds is just on flat planes that I just like distorted a little bit and bent a little bit. Like this one is bent. You see, if I go into wireframe view, you can just see I've moved some of the vertices around to get the look that I want. And really it was more for just shaping it generally, because I wanted it to kind of like fill the frame in a very specific way. So I just went into edit mode, grab a vertice, and then just kind of move things around to where you want it. Maybe you want this cloud part to be a little bit over there. It's kind of like in Photoshop when you open like the mesh warp tool and you start taking points and moving them around. It's pretty much like that. Some of these elements are just repeating. So this one, and I think this one down here and this one even. There's 4 of like the same clouds just repeating over. And because they're an image on a plane, you can just kind of like rotate you can just get like different parts of them. So in here, I wanted something to fill this space, so I grabbed it, moved it over here. This one's all the way in the background, so like even if I move it down, it's going behind the cloud, and then that can fill up some of that space right there if you want that, or if I wanted that look. But this was also a cloud from just a photo texture pack that I brought into Photoshop. No, actually, I think this one had already like the background masked out, so all I had to do was bring in this image in as an image as planes. And I'll do a whole separate video on how powerful images as planes can be, especially if you're a 2D artist who's looking to get into 3D. But yeah, so again, I just kind of like set the camera up here, and then everything was going through the camera. Let me open up a second window so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. So basically I would just take like this, I wanted some kind of like foggy mist on the bottom, so I took one of the cloud images I had already brought in. I'm gonna move this down, brought it in, like duplicate it, and then rotate it to get like the underside that's a little bit more wispy and a little bit less contrast on it, less color. And then you can see on the right side here, as I start moving this one like up and down, you get different parts of like the composition getting filled up with that like foggy cloud. And you can rotate it to get like a perspective and all that kind of stuff. And then right here, it's behind the bush, and if I wanted to bring it in front of the bush, all I would have to do is kind of like move it forward in the field. So if I want it to be closer to the camera, or if I want it to be like right in front of the camera, like here. You can also animate this kind of stuff. This is kind of like how you would animate in After Effects or something. You can take this and you can just like animate it to move across the screen to kind of reveal our main character or something like that. You can definitely do a lot of stuff, which is why I felt like doing this kind of thing in Blender was not only going to make my workflow a little bit easier, but it was just going to allow me to get more variations in the camera. So if I wanted to move the camera up, if I wanted to move the camera forward, or like get a little bit of a further wide shot, or change the FOV, anything like that. That was allowing me to create a lot of really cool. It was just giving me a lot of options. Like if I wanted the grass to be like the main part of the composition, things like that. And lastly, yeah, the character here is also just a sketch I did in Photoshop. Saved it out as a PNG with a transparent layer and brought it in as images planes, and they liked it. I had like a more like fully drawn out model, but it was just too much and it was clashing with the style. So the client just really liked the original look of the sketch, so I kept it. And that's the cool thing about kind of working with Blender and Photoshop, is that you can just bring your layers directly in the Blender and start arranging them in like a 3D space, and you can get a lot more out of them, and you can physically manipulate them. You can physically take things, like if I wanted to move this guy to a different part of the field, let's move this camera back a bit. So like if I wanted to grab this guy and move him somewhere else on the hill, I can just do that, and it's all going to be in perspective, kind of, like things that are further away are going to get smaller, things that are closer are going to get bigger, and I can change their size like at a whim. All this kind of stuff just makes it a lot easier. And like the little part at the bottom here where their feet are being obscured by the grass, like that's something that would be kind of hard to do in Photoshop. You kind of have to like line up the blades of the grass with their feet and then kind of erase the part you don't need or mask out. But because this is in 3D, you kind of get that it's just kind of happening. You don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.